In our series, Monsters of, we often explore some truly terrifying beasts from cryptozoology and mythology. But here on this channel, we also like to take a look at the real monsters, the ones that are real or at least were real in the past. We've already covered a few of Earth's scariest creatures with videos on dinosaurs, prehistoric sharks, and ancient whales. But today, we want to take a look at the smaller guys, the ones that don't get as much attention but are just as fascinating. This is Earth's forgotten giants. For every dinosaur or megalodon that most people know about, there are thousands of other creatures from Earth's past that have been largely forgotten. It can be difficult to imagine just how old our planet actually is. The Earth was formed around 4.5 billion years ago, though it took millions of years for life to emerge. That first true life form that we can identify was a single-cell organism. But within a few hundred million years, more complex life began to appear. And over the next 600 million years, animals began to dominate the seas and eventually the land as well. There were whole eras of prehistoric creatures that came and went long before the first humans appeared. One reason so many of these ancient animals have been forgotten is simply because they were very small. For example, let's look at some of the earliest relatives of modern sharks. These animals were the ancestors of the modern shark, yet they lived around 420 million years ago. They are known as placoderms. Placoderms were a type of armored fish that swam in the oceans during the Devonian period. The name placoderm means plate skin, which is an accurate description of these strange fish. They were covered all over in thick bony armor that protected them from predators. Some of them had strong jaws and sharp teeth, while others had more of a beak-like mouth. Many scientists believe that the placoderms were actually the first true predators of the oceans, the first animals capable of hunting other sea creatures rather than just scavenging for food. This made them very successful, and they grew to come in all shapes and sizes. The smallest placoderms were only a few inches long, while the biggest ones could grow up to 30 feet. Although the placoderms were incredibly diverse, they were also relatively short-lived. They only dominated the oceans for around 20 million years before going extinct. One reason for their sudden disappearance may have been the emergence of the first bony fish. As the first vertebrates with skeletons made out of bone instead of cartilage, these fish were lighter and more flexible than their placoderm rivals. This would have made them faster swimmers and better hunters. Whatever the reason, the placoderms disappeared completely by the end of the Devonian period, and they have remained extinct ever since. Another group of small prehistoric animals that is rarely spoken about today are the trilobites. Trilobites were some of the first arthropods to evolve. Arthropods are a type of invertebrate with a hard outer shell. This includes animals such as spiders, crabs, insects, and many others. Trilobites are the oldest known arthropods, and they swam in the world's oceans from around 520 million years ago until they went extinct 250 million years ago. They were incredibly diverse and are thought to have been one of the most abundant and geographically widespread groups of animals for hundreds of millions of years. Most trilobites were medium-sized, growing to around 7 inches long. They had a distinctive three-lobed body shape and a hard shell covering their head and thorax. Their legs were short, and they moved along the seafloor by flexing their bodies in a wave-like motion. Although they looked similar to modern crustaceans, they were actually more closely related to arachnids, such as spiders and mites. One interesting fact about trilobites is that they had huge compound eyes. Each eye was made up of many individual lenses and could see in almost every direction. This would have been helpful for spotting predators or prey. Also, even though they were mostly medium-sized, there were a few species of giant trilobites that grew up to 19 inches long. Despite being so successful, trilobites vanished completely during the Permian mass extinction event. Along with around 90% of all other species on Earth, only around 250 million years ago. It's believed that trilobites were wiped out due to dramatic climate change and rising sea levels. The Earth's crust is constantly changing and shifting, and this process of plate tectonics has led to the formation of new land masses, mountain ranges, and deep ocean trenches. It also plays a big part in the distribution of fossils. A good example of this is the fossil record of South America and Africa. At one time, these two continents were joined together as part of the supercontinent Gondwana. As a result, many of the same types of fossils have been found in both places, especially in the countries of Brazil and Argentina. However, as the two continents drifted apart, the fossil record of each country became more unique. Fossils of the same species can no longer be found in both places, even though they once shared the same landmass. Even though they are now separated by a vast ocean, this separation has helped scientists piece together the history of Gondwana and the animals that lived there. One of these long-forgotten giants of South America is the Glyptodon. The Glyptodon was a mammal that resembled a Volkswagen Beetle. It had a large, round body covered in bony plates that were fused together to form a protective shell. They had a short neck and tail and walked on 4 sturdy legs. They were herbivores and used their powerful shells to defend themselves against predators. Glyptodonts were related to armadillos and are thought to have evolved in South America around 10 million years ago. During the Pleistocene epoch, these giant mammals roamed the continent and were incredibly diverse. There were many different species of glyptodonts, and they came in a variety of sizes. The smallest ones were around 3 feet long, while the largest ones could grow up to 11 feet long and weigh almost a ton. They lived alongside other large mammals such as Macrauchenia, a relative of the camel, and Toxodon, a massive mammal with long tusks. Glyptodonts were some of the last in a line of giant mammal ancestors that had been evolving in South America for millions of years. Their ancestors were small proto-glyptodonts that migrated from North America across the Isthmus of Panama. These early glyptodonts were around 3 feet long and looked similar to modern armadillos. Over time, they grew larger and developed thicker shells. By the Pleistocene epoch, they had evolved into the giant mammals that we know today. Unfortunately, like many other large mammals, glyptodonts went extinct at the end of the Ice Age around 12,000 years ago. This may have been due to a combination of factors, including climate change, the extinction of their food sources, and overhunting by humans. Another long-forgotten giant from South America is the southern giant short-faced kangaroo. This strange creature was a marsupial that resembled a kangaroo, but was much larger. They were around 8 feet tall and weighed over 400 pounds. Like modern kangaroos, they spent most of their time grazing on grass and other vegetation. They also probably used their powerful tails for balance and support while standing and walking. The southern giant short-faced kangaroo lived in South America from around 3 million years ago until around 11,000 years ago. Like many other prehistoric mammals, they went extinct at the end of the Ice Age. This may have been due to the same factors that caused the glyptodonts to disappear. The ancestors of the giant kangaroos are thought to have been small proto-wombats that migrated from Antarctica. At this time, Australia and Antarctica were still connected by a land bridge, allowing animals to move between the two continents. Over time, the ancestral kangaroos grew larger and developed longer faces. Eventually, they evolved into the giant wombats that we know today. However, we're not sure exactly what caused them to grow so big. One theory is that the larger size allowed them to conserve water and regulate their body temperature in the harsh environment of Patagonia. Another theory is that the giant kangaroos were actually proto-wombats that chose violence, becoming the apex predators of their environment. These are just 2 of the many long-forgotten giants that once roamed South America. Others include the Magellan's giant ground sloth, the southern giant river turtle, and the Maiasaura, a relative of the llama. All of these creatures were once an integral part of their ecosystem, but today they are nothing more than fossils or a few scraps of DNA found in ancient bones. So what do you think? Are there any other weird prehistoric creatures that should have made it on this list? Let us know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more just like it, then be sure to check out the series Earth's Forgotten Giants and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.